Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I'm your host Bentley, and today I'm excited to welcome Katie Daugherty, social media associate at Buffalo Toronto Public Media, Donny Kutzbach, co-owner of Town Ballroom and Fun Time Presents, and also a partner at the Outer Harbor Concert Series, and Mike Farrow, singer, songwriter, poet, and storyteller, just to name a few things. Today we're kicking off Pride Month by talking about what Pride means in 2025 and what real allyship looks like. Then we'll get into the summer concert tour season. But first, what is everybody talking about in your group chats?
If you are living in Western New York right now, you're talking about what the hell is going on with this weather?
Yeah. You're right, Donny.
A lot of the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when the stat came out that we haven't, I don't know, I'm going to mess it up, but we haven't really had a sunny weekend since November?
Yeah. Precipitation every single weekend for the last 7 months or something like that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. My group chat's also talking about Taylor Swift because everybody thought she was going to announce something at the AMAs and then she didn't. So lots of theories going around and disappointments as well.
And she avoided the red carpet, right? She didn't do the red carpet.
A lot of big artists actually didn't go. Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo, Chappell Rowan, Lady Gaga. So many people did not go. It was super weird.
What do we think that's about?
I don't know.
They know something that we don't.
Anti-celebrity movement, maybe. Leave us alone. I don't know.
My group chat was talking about Beyonce's show because I went to see her in New York City, so that was a lot of fun.
Mike, tell us all about it.
I went on Thursday, so it was super cold and wet, and so that's all I could say. No, it was super cold and wet, and it was really beautiful. A lot of amazing music, a lot of amazing dancing from Blue Ivy, which unexpected.
Ooh.
She was very much more center stage this time. I also went to Renaissance, leave me alone. And no, it was just a lot of fun. And you could tell it was just diehard fans singing some of the old hits and the last album. So it was a lot of fun.
You felt very satisfied?
My favorite songs are like Love on Top and things like that.
Yeah.
And we got to sing those too. So
that's great.
It was great fun.
Yeah, when you go see an artist with such a catalog, it's hard not to have songs that you want to hear, and then, but you're always going to enjoy Beyonce, but it's cool when you get to hear the song you wanted to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, the album is it's a deep album with an American Requiem in it and stuff, so it was very beautiful and just a beautiful experience.
I love it. Those are the things I like to hear about in the group chats, because as we know, some group chats have been a little heavy lately, so I like to hear the positive points besides your rainy group chat. Sorry about that. Yeah. Buffalo Pride is happening this coming Sunday, June 1st, which it's taken me a month to realize that June 1st was on the Sunday. I'm like, no, Pride's the following weekend. No, June 1st starts on Sunday, and the parade kicks things off Elmwood Avenue. This year's theme, high visibility. And they're doing some new things this year. They're judging, they're doing award groups. They're doing 5 different awards groups for the parade. Did you hear about this, Mike?
I did not hear about
I know. I just heard about this as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I'll unveil it then right now. Work of Art, WERQ, group with the most artistic and imaginative presentation. Okay. Queen City Realness, group that best represents a love of Buffalo. 8 No Crumbs, the most fashionable, stunning, fierce, and ferocious group. Period. Group that sends a message so powerful, so clear, so moving, or so of the moment that the only response imaginable is period. And then Iconic Behavior, group whose overall presentation is giving talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique. And the list goes on.
Do we know what the prizes are?
No. Maybe a trophy? It's just like, yes, you have pride. Are you doing this year's parade?
I'm going with Buffalo Toronto Public Media.
Yes,
we walk in.
we're
We'll be
walking.
live streaming on TikTok. Very exciting, getting to showcase the parade for those who can't go. But I'm really excited. Last year, I actually was working at a different job on the weekend, and I was only able to go for my lunch break, so I ran into my car. I drove over there. I was there for like 5 minutes with my best friend, and then I had to go. So I'm very excited that I get to be part of the whole thing this year.
Yeah.
My first actual Pride.
It's pretty amazing. we will have fun waiting in the parking lot for
Oh, yes, we will.
It was Buffalo's biggest parade. I don't know. I think last year it still maintained that. As of 2 years ago, it became Buffalo's biggest parade. So lots of people waiting to line up. But that's kind of the fun is the parking lot waiting to go. So anybody else festivities planned?
I might be. There's a possibility of one group that I might be joining, but we're still in talks. But normally I don't do the parade. I'm not a parade person in general.
Yeah.
So it's always a stretch to make me go to any parade.
Why are you not a parade person?
Because parades are just weird to me.
Okay.
Like as a whole, like not just the Pride parade, like Santa Christmas parades. They're just bizarre to me. And I've been in some of like small town America parades, like through town. It's just a weird experience. Like
smaller the town, the weirder the parade.
It's just a bizarre experience. Like I don't get it, but it's for somebody.
Yeah. I remember there was a woman last year that was just like throwing glitter at people, and I was like, yeah, that's fun. But then it got a little out of control, and you cannot wash glitter off. There was glitter just coming out of everywhere for like months, and I remember the vehicle we used for the parade last year with Buffalo Toronto Public Media. One of the engineers was like, "Why is there glitter all over in the back of the vehicle?" And I'm just like, we did not do it. I think there's still glitter in there from last year.
Oh, there definitely is.
And I think 100%. She threw glitter on my baby too. He loved it. So try getting that off of a baby. But there are a ton of events going on as well. So there's also the One Love Pride Parade after party, and there are different also, we're obviously highlighting this parade because this is this coming weekend, but then throughout the month, the Lockport Pride Parade is the 14th, and Toronto Pride Parade, which we're a part of as well, is the 29th. A big festival for that, 3-day festival for that. So what does celebration mean when it comes to Pride? It's a tough year. So what does celebration look like?
I'm going to speak from my context. Being, African American, there's a lot of pain that goes on in our community, and there is a lot of utilizing joy and dance and like you smile through some of the pain, you cry, but you dance, you laugh, you enjoy yourself, and remember that you're still alive and you're still thriving, or if you're thriving, or for one night at least you're thriving. And so I think that Pride is a celebration still. I don't think it should ever be a dour, sour kind of thing, because we need that joy, to that connection with each other to like really make it through.
Yeah. And then even being an ally and supporting Pride, what does that look like?
I think
I saw Donny's like face light up.
I look at this year as, I think everybody needs to be involved. If you are any kind of an ally, if you are LGBTQIA+, you have to be involved in some way, shape, or form, because I feel like this is the most consequential year in a long time, more than 2016 or 17, more than, I think, since we've really started celebrating Pride as a thing, and in places like Buffalo and Toronto and well beyond. This is definitely the year, especially in North America, where everybody, no matter who you are, if this is something, we are all connected to this in some way, and this is the time to show that you are a part of it and you're supporting it. And I think that's why this is an important year for allies and everybody to show Pride.
Yeah, especially not even just this June, just going forward. I think that everybody needs to just not be afraid to have conversations. Like, adults and everybody like who are just allies, like even just having those conversations with their friends or their family, and just if people have questions or don't understand something, not being afraid to explain it, even if, you know, you're not in the community, just like spreading, you know, like acceptance, just not being afraid to have those conversations.
Celebrating and performance and purpose. What is the difference between performance and purpose?
Well, as a performer, I know that my responsibility is to create a space that's safe for people to enjoy each other and what's happening on stage. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily supposed to educate everybody on everything, or like have to transform or organize the movement or something. But creating a space where people know that there is acceptance and there's care and love, and that becomes part of the purpose in the performance. Like they go together.
Yeah.
Like that's why I perform, is just to give people that space.
And going along with what Michael said, everything in art to me is protest. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt like, we were talking before this, we were talking about Tom Morello, and we always seem to talk about Tom Morello, but we're talking about Rage Against the Machine, and the idea that like art and protest always go hand in hand, and usually a lot of the best art comes out of protest.
Yeah. And
again, I keep thinking about how important this year is, and I think we're going to see a lot of voices coming out, especially as the weather gets warmer and people are out in the streets together. We're going to see and hear a lot more about people voicing who they are, where they're coming from, and how they feel about what's going on in the world right now.
And please do not get mad if Black people do not show up at your things. I think that's something that's sometimes missed, is that Black folks have stood up and protested and put themselves out there a lot. And as a general, we're tired.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, in the same way, I think that we could, you know, just be a little bit kind if some group of people isn't showing up at your events because they're tired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And safety. There's some things that some people don't have to worry about, you know, in mass gatherings. And yeah, and I think your care and love comment, I think that, you know, we have to remember that, and in all aspects of these celebrations and how we're thinking about things. And I think, you know, if you look at the Pride Parade, Pride Parade started out as very small groups of people that were out there putting themselves out there and putting themselves in harm's way in a lot of instances. I remember when I was growing up, my aunt, and this was in Harrisburg, but she used to take my cousins with her to march in the Pride Parade, and they were the Rainbow Crew, and they had rainbow umbrellas, so they would block in the parade the people that were against Pride along the parade route, and that was pretty substantial 10 years ago, you know? So yes, point taken, you know? It's but and then to Donny's point too, you know, sometimes the people that feel comfortable that they can be out do possibly have a responsibility to be a voice. You know, it's come up, and especially locally in Buffalo, about what consumerism and corporate support look like in terms of Pride. There are a lot of companies that, you know, will post their symbols or graphics, and they'll change them to rainbow for Pride Month, or they will be part of celebrations. But what does it really mean for a company or a corporation to be an ally?
I guess I put it as, how does it fit within the caste system? How does it help the caste system or hurt the caste system? Because that's the issue. Like, we're talking about somebody being lesser because of something very arbitrary that they were born as. So being lesser because of the way you were born is is a caste system, and we have one here. And so if your company is just putting up rainbow flags and hoping that it increases rainbow sales, I don't know if that's really being an ally. But if you're doing something to elevate queer, young workers, because Black queer workers are the least likely to get these jobs, if you're hiring more of them, then you're an ally. If you're actually helping the outcomes of people's lives, but if you're just using it for sales, then no.
Yeah, like if companies, I know Target might be a bad example, but they used to, I remember seeing that they were buying or selling things from Black creators, and back then, that would have been that is something that companies should be doing is, if you're going to say Happy Pride, you should also be supporting those LGBTQ plus creators and artists.
To Mike's point, there are statistics around some of the things that we're talking about. So at least 25 transgender and gender nonconforming people were killed in the U.S. in 2024, 72% of whom were people of color. So, yes, there's feelings behind this, but there's also, we have stats on these things. So what does it look like? I know, Katie, you mentioned, yes, it being beyond June. What are some of the things that should be happening beyond June? And what are the conversations? I know, we talk about supporting artists, but also, companies hiring. Who are they hiring? If they're saying, we're supporting this movement, well, who's on your staff and who are you looking to advance? But what are some of the conversations that you think need to be had year round that are easier, maybe a little easier to digest? Because there's a lot of big, higher level.
I think just implementing, some things that seem small but mean so much to other people. For example, wedding venues, instead of me and my girlfriend were just talking about this, how so many wedding venues have bride and groom on the papers, but what about spouse and spouse, or just schools, or some other daycare or something, parent and parent, not so much mom and dad, just small things that are bigger to other people, because if I were to see something like that, I would feel very not accepted. So I think just companies and organizations should really be putting more effort into making it so that everybody feels welcome and everything is accessible for everybody.
It's not just about the visibility, it's about the practices.
Yes, exactly.
I host an open mic, and I always introduce it as ladies, gentlemen, and friends.
Yeah.
Because I needed another category for those that didn't fall into ladies and gentlemen. So I always say, and friends. Yeah. Because I'm you have to be welcome too. Yeah. It's those little things do make a difference.
Exactly.
Yes. And it doesn't cost anyone anything to just say the right thing and honor people for who they are.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a big divide going on right now that not everyone sees it that way.
I like that companies and organizations have been opening up and giving more opportunity for people to list their pronouns and stuff to make it more normalized for those transgender, non-binary people and gender non-conforming people that don't have just that their pronouns aren't what they look like. So I think that's great. Also, just having those pronouns out there, and allies and other people should also not be afraid to just say that. Somebody that I know was really complaining that they had that their pronouns on a name tag or something. It's not that hard. It's not that serious. It doesn't bother you. So just, letting it be and just accepting it.
Mike, I'm glad you brought that up, Katie, and Mike, I'm glad that you brought up the ladies and gentlemen thing, because when I hear that now when I'm somewhere, because it's sort of getting transformed or not said, but then when you hear it, I feel like it sticks out to me. So I like the friend edition. That's a good way to put it. But I feel like every time I hear that, it sticks out to me. So I'm glad you do that. Donny, you're embedded in the music world, and we have seen positivity through art. artists being signed that aren't just this certain put in this certain box, and they're making money.
I think it's just all visibility. And again, Katie said, the point you said about Target is maybe a bad example. I think Target is the best example because, and I'm getting away from the music, which I'll come back to it, but I think Target's a really good example because for the last so many years, you mentioned like Black creators, that was a thing, and now they've really rolled that back.
Yeah.
Pride was always a thing at Target. Target had that really cool Pride capsule. You'd go in there and you'd be like, oh, there's a Pride swimsuit or, you know, all different kinds of things. Now they don't. I actually went into Target yesterday and I was looking, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they got the Pride stuff out. And they didn't, which made me think right away. And of course, we saw also in the last so many months when they said they were rolling back, as some people call it, DEI or whatever they're calling it. They said they were moving away from that in their hiring practices and everything that they did. So they did that, but then there was also a pushback. And a lot of it was coming from especially leaders in the Black community. But I think a lot of people in the LGBTQ and allies, again, sort of supported it. And Target took a pretty good hit in that quarter when folks started doing that. And I know there's a lot of people who decided not to shop there, and especially, or shop there as little as possible. And if you live around the corner from Target, you go in there 10 times, you know, in a week, or, you know, maybe maybe 3 times a week. And if you curb that down to like going there maybe once every 2 weeks or so, you change that statistic. So I think Target's a good example, and I think that they're seeing that kind of the reaction to what they did. But in terms of music, I just feel like it has changed so much. And I'm looking at, I can look at shows this, you know, that are coming up this summer and into the fall, and, you know, like Anita Franco and Hooray for the Riff Raff. That's like 2 generational artists from different generations who have both sort of symbolized things. Indigo Girls and Melissa Etheridge.
Lucy Dacus is coming to Art Park.
Lucy Dacus. Ethel is playing sold out show. Ethel's massive right now, and you can't be any more representative than Ethel. It is just really about visibility and being out there, and I think that's the most important thing. And getting back to the commerce side of it, those artists are going to get signed if people are paying attention, and if the visibility is there, that's what matters. So again, it does ultimately come down. It's always going to be commerce over art. I hate to say it, but if there's an audience there, there's going to be money that comes to it.
And it's undeniable if you spend your money on tickets.
But what do you do with things, people like Little Richard, who is obviously a little in the non-binary kind of spectrum? I mean, there's always been like non-binary and gender non-conforming artists.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's part of the industry. So there's always been a slight visibility. I don't think there's been the words to go with it necessarily. Like, we didn't label it or say anything. You just said he was a little sugar in the tank might have been something you would say.
I've never heard that one, but I'm not gonna use it. But
I've watched a lot of documentaries. So
yes, like those were kind of those euphemisms for things that you were talking about. So I mean, there's everyone's always existed. Like it's not like nothing is like it's one of those things where it's where is the money flowing though? Like Little Richard's a perfect example of the money not flowing to him, even though everybody and their mama was covering his songs. And there's a lot of that. Like you watch where the money is going though, and you should start to see if it's flowing the right direction. Then we got it going.
Little Richard had to walk before everyone else behind him could start running.
Right?
He
was the first rock star.
Yes, he absolutely.
And unfortunately, artists didn't feel comfortable in their marketing or in interviews to talk about. I mean, and some people choose not to talk about their personal lives, which we are going to get to in a few minutes because Katie's got some ideas around this. But, unfortunately, it was always assumptions or, code words. It was, and there were artists that suffered because they couldn't feel like they could be themselves, even though that was a part of their life. So, it's how do you talk about it? Because obviously these artists are good artists, and then they're talking about their personal lives, you know, and it's there's maybe less of a fear of talking about that now, possibly.
I think with social media being that your whole life is pretty much clickable, does make it so that you're more likely to talk about your life.
Yeah.
But there's still a closet. There is still a DL community. There is still a lot of people that aren't able to say, live their truth, and that's due a lot to the economics of it too. You can't. If you're not, I mean, when you're poor and you're LGBTQ, you're less likely to be out because you have less ability to provide for yourself, and you need a community or a network. And sometimes that doesn't show up. So
I feel like the door has been broken down in entertainment for the most part, not 100%, but in like professional sports.
Oh yeah,
not a chance, especially in male-dominated professional sports. Like we have not seen. We know that there is a lot of queer football players out there, and through the years there has been, but nobody has. We have not been able to really pinpoint very many of them because it's just not a thing. People aren't comfortable with it. But again, getting back to that point about corporate participation in things like Pride. When you see on social media on like June 1st. When the Pride logo goes up, you see all of the really great people who have some really terrible comments to say about it. But now you see more and more and more of people who are pushing back against it and say, you know what? Go away. We don't want this anymore. Everyone is included. And I'm not saying it's not. It certainly hasn't changed overnight, and it's not going to change anytime really fast. But you know, the arc of justice, it's a slow bend, right?
Well, when we come back from the break, we're talking about queer representation in media. So don't go away. Group chat on BTPM NPR. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us again on Group Chat. I'm your host, Bentley, and I'm joined by Katie Daugherty, social media associate at Buffalo Toronto Public Media. I should say social media all-star. Let's be real here. She started our TikTok. I mean, that's an undertaking.
With Tia, of course.
Donny Kutzbach, co-owner of Town Ballroom and Fun Time Presents, also a partner in the Buffalo Outer Harbor Concert Series. And Mike Farrow, singer, songwriter, performer, poet, and storyteller. Just to name a few things.
You know.
If you've seen any musical performance in Buffalo, you know him. So we're talking about Pride kicking off this weekend, Pride Month kicking off this weekend on June 1st. And there's a lot of sides to this. And I did mention you, Katie, in the last block teasing this, but, you know, don't feel pressured. But you've brought up some interesting points in our meetings preparing, you know, topics for this. Pop culture pressures to come out. So we talked about a little bit in the music block, maybe are we in a better climate for musicians to feel like they can come out? But now, is there a pressure to come out? So this stems from Kit Connor, right?
Yeah. So he's in Heartstopper, and he plays a bisexual character, and he posted on social media that he was bisexual and that he was, you know, feeling pressure from just social media. So many people, fans, not fans, just people pressuring him, saying like, are you gay? Are you bi? Like, you shouldn't be playing this character if you're not. And because of all of this, he felt pressure to come out. And I feel like there is a lot of pressure from society for people to come out. Another author recently of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, it's an LGBTQ story, and the author also just came out recently, I think, as bisexual, and she felt like people weren't taking her seriously until she came out.
Is it a pressure to that you need to explain things to people or put yourself in a box? Is that counterproductive?
Those examples definitely sound like where they were talking and telling LGBTQ stories and acting in the LGBTQ story, and they wanted to make sure that an actual LGBTQ person was doing it, because there is that online Like I'm the gay online kind of thing where you're just gay fishing, like you're just trying to get queer baiting, whatever it is. I knew it was something with fish. Them kids and their internets. But no, like this aspect of you want to make sure that somebody's talking from a place of authenticity and reality.
It's hard. Like, where do you draw that line of, you know, having your own personal life and also still representing those people?
I think Khalid is a perfect example where he was like, his first song, Location, was literally the grinder sound. And so like anyone that had any like sense would have like, oh yeah, okay, it was like in there. He never said anything about it and there was never a need to. And then someone tries to like out him online and that kind of thing and all this and it was just like, yeah, whatever, I am, and let's move on. And I think there's a lot of people that are pretty much, yeah, let's move on if it's not about what you're selling. And he was not selling LGBTQ things. He was selling his music and a vibe and a moment. And so it was just an afterthought. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, whatever. Like it didn't need to be an explanation.
I think this comes back to people being people and artists being people, and I think we've continued to have this conversation on group chat that even though they're putting art out there, it doesn't mean that they also can't have their own views on how they want their personal life perceived. But social media obviously doesn't allow that, and especially if you're a product. if you're considered being yourself. A product, yeah.
Also, I feel like if you then like there's a lot of controversy too with JoJo Siwa right now because she came out as a lesbian and now she is with this guy, which if you realize that you say something and you're not, that's one thing, but she basically, it's like alleged, I don't know, there's some speculation of whether she really cheated or not, but she kind of cheated on her girlfriend on television on Big Brother, and so then it also then sparks up more stereotypes about, because now if she's bisexual, you know, sexuality is a spectrum, but if it sparks those stereotypes again about bisexual people. So it's hard when she said she invented gay pop, and so she's taking that role, and now it's kind of risky because now people are looking at that negatively.
Anyone who believes that JoJo Siwa, what she says that she invented gay pop,
oh my God,
they're very gullible. I love JoJo, but come on, honey. No.
Yeah, it's rough. I used to not like her because I was like, the bows are too much. And then she came out and I was like, oh my gosh, gay icon. My mom was like, I thought you hated her. I was, well, no. And now I'm like,
Well, I think it's important too that you said sexuality is a spectrum. And isn't that why we have these conversations? Because you know, especially around love and feelings, that these aren't just stereotypes like you also mentioned. And when you mention bisexuality, what are some of the stereotypes? I think I know what you're talking about, but just to talk about that a little bit.
That, you know, if you're dating a girl and like I'm a girl, so if I'm dating a girl, then I'm not bisexual, I'm a lesbian. But if I'm dating a guy, then I'm straight. Or that I'm with a girl, but oh no, I'm going to cheat on her with a guy, or, you know, vice versa. It's just like the cheating, that you're not actually bi.
Sounds like a lot of boxes again.
Yeah, we like to categorize things and put them in boxes. It's our thing.
So I'm going to be the old head here too, but I do think it's really important for folks to be representative, and we've already talked about this a bunch today, and it's important. The visibility is important, but there's a lot of cases too where I feel like mystique is something that is great, especially with artists. It's like not necessarily knowing who they are, and they might present themselves as one thing, but there's a lot more layers to it, and you may not know everything about it. And before the internet and social media, there were most artists where they had a mystique, and you didn't know everything, and now it's like it's totally the opposite. So I'm actually kind of one for going back to having a little bit more mystique, to your art, to artists and art, and not necessarily having to know exactly how the sausage is made, you know?
Like I don't know anything about Lady Gaga's actual life. Like I don't know what she does for, like, eats for breakfast, but there's other social media people that I'm like, I know what the artist ate for breakfast. I know where they're going to be this afternoon. Like, so it's just a different approach. But yes, Mystique is nice.
Yeah, I feel like people expect their celebrities, their icons, to have a stance on everything, and I feel like that must be exhausting to always, oh, why aren't you talking about this, why aren't you talking about this, like, it must be really exhausting to feel like you always have to say something about everything. Mike,
you're a performer and a musical artist.
I mean, I have a stance about everything just because I'm a person, and like, you know, my personal experience like colors my stances on things, and I'll say that, like, it's from my perspective. Like, I'm not saying that I know the universal objective perspective, which I don't think exists in the first place, but I mean, you just say what you believe, and if people vibe with it, they vibe with it. I find it weird to be like constructing like your stance on something. Like, that would be very bizarre to me. Like, you're sitting around trying to figure out where I stand on, I'm like, I stand for human rights, like that people are allowed to be people. And if that's the lens I put through everything through, then it really, stances are easy, that people are allowed to be people.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, expectations can be maybe a little paralyzing too, or make people maybe, I don't know, overthink what they're doing or feel pressured. So I think some of the examples that you gave in the beginning might go back to, you know, the curse of social media. So you were talking the pros and cons there. But I also appreciate Mystique. I think I appreciate all spectrums. I think I can see through fake really easily, and it's not being jaded. I just think that some of the people that are forcing things, I can always pick up on that no matter what they're talking about. So
I love going back and looking at old Doechii content. Like, it's so, like, when she wasn't famous and no one knew who she was, and she still has that content up there, and it's just, you know, the most mundane, her trying her best. And some of that stuff is fun. It's a little too intimate sometimes, but it's fun, like, to feel like you really know them. But that's also the danger, is that parasocial relationship where they're like, I know everything about you, and I'm like, and I have no idea who you are. And so they feel like they're really close and have a connection, and you have really no idea who they are.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Group Chat. I'm your host, Bentley, and I'm here with Katie Daugherty, Donny Kutzbach, and Mike Farrow. Getting into media and pop culture around the LGBTQ plus community, along with the things we've been talking about societal pressures or being mysterious, what about shows that feature LGBTQ plus artists, characters that you've identified with, and are they canceled too early? Now, until this was brought up and like the list was presented, like there's something possibly to this. So what does it say when a queer character is introduced and celebrated only to be written out or canceled mid-story? Which apparently has been happening lately, right, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, I know that me and my friend, we love the show Everything Sucks. It's a show about two lesbians, or one is bisexual, one's a lesbian. It's two girls, and they fall in love and in high school, and it's a show for teens, and it was canceled after the first season. Again, that was a while ago, that show, but then Heartstopper came out, and that was huge because it's, again, for teens and younger audiences, and now it was canceled. I mean, they're going to have a movie to wrap it up. Thankfully, at least it wasn't canceled, right? Like, you know, but I just feel like everything that we get, stuff like that, is just then thrown away.
I'm thinking older TV representations, they would definitely be canceled. They all got canceled early.
Yeah.
I have one, again, and it's generational, but it fits right in because everyone is talking about this right now. But Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, when here's somebody, and the film is incredible, in 2 parts on HBO Max.
I just saw that.
But he was literally canceled because he had an incident at an adult theater when that was a thing. Yeah. And then he kind of had to go away almost forever and never totally really was able to fully come back. But now, even though sadly he's gone, he's being celebrated more than ever. And, you know, he's an icon beyond just being, you know, a queer person, just so many people for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm. Do you get attached to these characters, and then is there... what happens when they go away? Is there
I do.
Sad? Yeah.
I know I do. I mean, I figured out that I was bisexual by watching Pretty Little Liars, Emily and Allison, they fall in love, and that's actually how I like discovered it. And then they actually got divorced in like the reboot or something. So of course another couple that, you know, but at least no one died.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get very attached to these characters, and it's really great to see people on the screen represent you in your life. I feel like we need more of that. This is big controversy out in the world and even like within my own family, but I think we need more representation in children's shows, you know, even just having like two dads, two moms, you know, it doesn't have to be about, you know, intimate stuff, just about that these people exist, these people are real and they're not going anywhere. Like in High School Musical, the musical, the series, that's a show that was also for kids, and there was a gay couple in there, and my siblings watched it, and I thought that was so important, and I think that there should be more like stuff in Disney movies as well, but wasn't there something with like one Disney character and then they like other like parents like freaked out.
Disney's a little awkward. Well,
yeah.
Disney's
Disney tries.
They sometimes try. Like, I mean, all of the villains are queer coded. Like they really are.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem when you kill them in every movie. And so we avoid discussing that part of things. We look at the happy side.
But they're also iconic. It's like the queer Disney villains are like, they're so awesome.
They
and
really
even though,
are.
yes, they're bad, but they're also like, they've become such important, you know, style and fashion icons.
Evil kind of. Yeah. Like they all do that like for a long period of time. The villain was, I mean, Jungle Book all the way, all the way up.
Yeah.
Like
And I mean, I have to say, having a very young child, Sesame Street does a great job because families are families, you know, and there's all different family situations, and that's just part of what they do on Sesame Street every day. You know, when, you know, the kids go to Elmo's house, or, you know, the kids that are actually on the show go to each other's houses, and there's, you know, these parents here. It's just a part of the story in everyday life.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have done a really good job of that, you know, and on the, you know, like looking at relative to other media and maybe, you know, other children's media, it's just part of the story.
Well, getting back to the cancellation aspect of it, Lovecraft Country was such a great show, but the queer representation in that was really awful for me. Like I hated every minute of it. The closeted, violent, dark-skinned gay man and the light-skinned, feminine, like gay man that he's beating on. Like it was just a horrible representation. And I'm like, okay, we just need more of it. That's the whole thing. Like it represents something, but we need more representation so that we have different kinds and versions of this kind of love and relationship. But it happens so much that it's almost starting to be a trope of this, like the queer violence thing that happens in especially in Black communities. And so I'm like, I could deal with a little bit less of that. I need a few love stories that work out where someone can love somebody and it doesn't end in trauma and tragedy.
Yeah.
That would be really amazing.
Yeah. Is that where you get into looking into the writers behind these stories and wondering if maybe that's where some of the opposition comes in, because maybe there's a disappointment and you look into who's writing it? Or
I don't blame the writer, because they're the other people in the room.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like writing rooms have gotten, from what I see, looking out and in, and just for reading, you know, social media and seeing the writers' rooms seem like they have gotten fairly diverse now. And I can't say that's a fact, but that's the perception that
Maybe
I get.
better than
so I think it's better.
Improving.
It's certainly better than, it's not just a bunch of white guys who who went to an Ivy League school writing it.
But if they still have institutional power to like veto everything, you're still going to end up. Well, that's why I don't blame the writers. I'm like the writers. The guys on top can still be like, nope, that's not the thing. And so,
and there's also moments too, and this is going to go into the bigger picture of like when you go into TV and media, and sometimes it's like one of the best shows I think in the last 10 years or whatever was Pose, and I loved it so much, and it was such an emotional roller coaster. And it was a beautiful story, and I felt like representation in so many ways. But I also felt like by the end of it, after 3 seasons, I was like, that was that story. I think it kind of wrapped up okay. And after 3 seasons, even though I still wanted more of it, I was almost like, I'm kind of glad there wasn't a 4th season, because the 4th season, where do they go with this? And I'm sure they probably could have figured it out. But I also sometimes like when shows only last for a certain amount of seasons.
And my biggest problem with that was that it reignited the stigma of HIV, because it's a timepiece that Pose is, and so people watching it now, like, pulled that stigma with them from this piece, and I'm like, we need to like get rid of the stigma, get tested, people. It's a different world than then. And I mean, I know someone recently that was killed because they got someone infected with HIV, and that stigma is pulled through it. And so I was like, I love the show, I love the representation, but can we please pick a time period that isn't filled with AIDS? Like, because there's still the entire ballroom culture that exists that can still be explored without necessarily going to the time period where everyone's dying from AIDS. I think that's having to deal with who was the head producer of these things.
But I still think AIDS voices are still important. I lost two of the people who are closest to me in my life ever. I lost to HIV, and that's the kind of thing where and it's sometimes easy to forget because it feels like something that is like it's in the past, but it is still something that it's a recent enough past, and we still have to sort of honor it and recognize it.
100% honor and recognize. I wasn't like, take the show off.
No.
I'm like, I love the show. Right, it was great.
But it's still history. And like, if you grew up in that era and you were a child and you went through it or you were an adult and you lost people, it is still something that to me is like, it's crazy how much AIDS has become something in the background, especially when it was as much of center stage of our culture for so long, and we lost so many people to it.
And I think we're in a time now where we have to we have to look at history and look at the importance of
pandemics,
and research and research and medicine and caring about people, because you can't treat people like they're throwaways because this is affecting this community, or I think for as hard as it is to bring up these things and see these things, I think that sometimes it's a necessary reminder, not just with the AIDS epidemic, but even when we were talking about pride parades, where these parades started and where people were yelled at when they were in the parade. They weren't cheered on, and it's not that long ago. And it's like, it's just really scary to think that we could end up back in these places very easily. And so it's hard to figure out how to talk about it or, revisit it. And, sometimes art and media is the way that you talk about it.
Celebrating the people that did things throughout it, like the unsung hero of the lesbians during that time period, who were the ones that would go into the hospitals and would visit with visit with people that were dying from AIDS when others wouldn't. So I mean, it's a lot of times their stories get ignored, which I love. I have friends in the History Project here that are exploring those stories and making sure that people know them.
The nurses and doctors who are doing that, incredible people.
So storytelling is very important and powerful. So we have to make sure, the right voices are behind it. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the summer concert season and tour season and things coming up this summer and amidst all the art forms that we're talking about. So that's next on Group Chat. Welcome back to Group Chat. I'm your host, Bentley, here with my guests, Katie Daugherty, social media associate at Buffalo Toronto Public Media, Donny Kutzbach, co-owner of Town Ballroom and Fun Time Presents and partner in the Buffalo Outer Harbor Concert Series, and Mike Farrow, singer, songwriter, poet, storyteller, and on and on and on. So thank you for all being here today. We have been previewing Pride, talking about some heavy issues and some lighter issues, and I think a common theme we've been talking about today is celebrating people. So I think even when things get dark, we have to celebrate each other, love each other. Mike's been bringing up the word love a lot. So music does bring us together. And we have quite the tour schedule this summer. But as we were talking before this segment off mic, that the concert season is now heavy in September. So I sort of did a September cutoff, even though I feel like September is still summer in Buffalo because Buffalo, Toronto, it's like we don't get summer until, June? So I think summer is extended until September. Donny, I know we've talked about this a ton on Group Chat, but just getting people back out at shows. And Mike, you live this, I'm sure. It's not something that just changed overnight after okay, now there's no pandemic and now we're going to be normal again. It's been a kind of a slow build and now it's everything all at once, I feel like. So there's competition, there's, but we're back at it.
Abundance.
There's an abundance. So you do have artists trying to get creative, which I hate being the I am not the jaded person in the room, but sometimes I guess because of dealing with shut up, Donny. I just dealing so much with tours and the music side of my job. I just when I see I roll my eyes at a lot of things sometimes. So so the All American Rejects house party tour. I know it got brought up in our production meeting, and they are doing these college backyard parties, which is great. But are we sort of entering this new era of this DIY thing? I think my opinion of this is All American Rejects had to do something. They're trying to think of something to get an audience because, competition. They're trying to get maybe a younger audience. And it looks like they're well attended. One got shut down by the cops recently, just this past weekend. So do you think there is a necessity to do these things that are different? I mean, this was done a while ago also. It's just everything kind of comes back around. But is that where we're at with trying to marketing musicians or people trying to find these creative different things to do?
People are... our attention spans are at certainly the lowest point they've ever been in human civilization. Mm-hmm. So I think for an artist, it's so hard to get an audience and to hold an audience for very long. So unless you're like Beyonce and Michael goes all the way to New Jersey, you and 250,000 people go see her over 4 nights. Yeah. It's hard to be anywhere down below that. Mm-hmm. And All American Rejects are a band that they can play to a couple thousand people probably on a good day. So now everyone is just out there trying to figure out, how do you get an audience? How do you grab those clicks? Mm-hmm. How are you going to find and re-engage with people and find new people? Yeah. So I think there's always everyone is trying to get a hook, and sometimes it's creative packaging. Like I still think I don't know how all the dates are selling, but I think SZA and Kendrick, which is playing in Toronto in a couple weeks. I'm going. Yeah, I know you are. I think that's creative packaging. I think creative packaging is an important thing to have, to take two artists who you might not have necessarily thought would ever play together. Not that they haven't collaborated, but I don't think you would have thought they would be touring together. Yeah. and putting it
Mike's shaking his head.
putting it together.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to do it, but I think more and more you're going to see everyone looking for new and different ways to sort of grab that audience and engage people.
I remember seeing people upset about like an 1.5-hour concert, and people are like, Taylor Swift 3.5-hour concert is not normal, guys. Like, an 1.5 hours is fine. Like, I feel like people just expect so much now because of like one artist or other people. So yeah, I feel like people are trying so hard to do different things now.
The people that are doing the 3.5-hour concerts have a catalog to fill that time. Like, an 1.5 hours is still a pretty long time to fill when you figure songs are around an average of 4 minutes a piece. You have like Bruce Springsteen doing 3.5 hours and Taylor Swift, and it's
jam bands.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, with
those
it's
jam bands, Taylor
songs.
Swift and Bruce, and that's it.
But yeah, it is interesting to see artists like doing different things and trying things. And I do know the house party thing has been, and maybe that was, post-COVID, house parties are a thing again in the college community where they're maybe going to house parties more than bars. So even though I was trying to like zoom in on the pictures to see if it was a college crowd or if it was just like the original All-American Rejects fans.
Yeah, it's all like millennials in their late 40s with 2 kids and a mortgage. Like, hey, I'm at the college house party.
Yeah, that would be so awkward.
Yeah, but we're talking about them right now. So I mean, something's working.
I mean, I just think there are bad ways of getting people to talk, like going to space. That was not necessarily that was not necessarily
not Katy Perry.
Not necessarily the greatest way to advertise your tour. Which
that tour's a mess.
Yeah, it didn't sell very many tickets.
I think Katy Perry's trying too hard. Too hard.
Well, and that's why I, when I started this with the eye roll thing, I'm just like, no, like, because,
you set the bar low when you did something that made you less liked than being married to Russell Brand. Right?
Like
she did it.
Yeah, the space, man. Bringing that space thing back up, I don't think we'll ever stop having a cringe factor.
It was cringy. Yeah, it was cringy.
And I love Gail too, but come on.
I was disappointed in Gail over that a little bit. Sorry, I just have. That all comes back to our talk earlier about the expectations you have from the people.
The parasocial nature of it. Like, how could they do that to me?
Yeah. Come on, Gail. That's not you. You're better than that. So I know you brought up Kendrick. So that's obviously a big tour that I think is just sold out everywhere. I mean, coming to Toronto June 13th and 14th, Friday, Saturday. I have a Friday ticket. So, but what I've heard about that tour is that SZA actually, it's not necessarily like an opening thing. Like, she comes out during performances throughout, which is another interesting thing too. It's seems very collaborative, and I don't even. That tour is just making a ton of money. Mike, you just got to go see Beyonce. So you got that checked off.
Oh man, that was I mean, since I saw the last one too, so
yeah.
And I'll see the next one probably too. Just one of those things. They got me, so now I'm stuck.
Katie, I like seeing you excited about a show because I feel like. So Katie does our social media here, and she does a lot of social media for the Bridge, and we're, announcing shows or partnering on shows. And so when she asks me about a show, I'm like, wait, what do you want to go see?
I'm very excited because I'm just so happy that Buffalo is becoming such a hot spot for these concerts. I am from Long Island, so I was really close to New York City. So now that I moved here, it's really nice. I have been dying for my favorite artist, Maren Morris. She's a country pop singer. She sings The Middle and The Bones. That's how people know her. But yeah, so she's my icon, and I finally got meet and greet tickets for September. So I was like, I'm ready to bring this up now. Well, I'm very excited, and I can't believe she's coming to Art Park. So I'm just very excited that we have Outer Harbor, Art Park, Darien Lake, like so many locations over here now. It's really great.
Yeah, so we needed somebody to come from the outside, Donny, that is excited because you've been living in it for so long.
Yeah,
Mike, you've been living in it. So I think that we need that reminder sometimes because I think that it's such like a part of our lives and there's been ebbs and flows and we've had, I think before the pandemic, the year before, concerts booked for that year were insane. And I just remember like seeing them all get canceled. And I was like, this is the worst year ever for this to happen. Like we are getting these amazing things. So now to see things, you know, coming back and, you know, it does feel good. Even though my summer schedule, I have to like block out weekends where I'm just going away and going camping. 'Cause I'm like, Donny, what does your summer look like?
It's a little too busy. It's a little too busy. No, it's there's a lot. I do feel like there's something for everybody this year.
Yeah.
And again, it goes all the way into September, so it overlaps with the fall and football season and pumpkin spice.
And you're going to be announcing more.
Yeah.
I mean, September is already nuts. I don't even want to think about
September is. We've talked about this before on group chat, but September is now like because of the way the industry is, so many artists have to be out working. Everyone doesn't really have a choice, and so more artists are out there now more than ever. So just due to like scheduling and everything else, there's more shows now in September, even going into October, than we've ever seen.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like I'm actually have plans to go to Toronto more this summer than I have in a while because of some of those bigger shows that, you know, go to Toronto. Yes, Kendrick Lamar
and artists
and
and the bigger shows too tend to book regionally because they know that if they're playing in Cleveland, they're not going to play Buffalo because they're going to get you to travel to Cleveland, or they're going to play Toronto because they know they'll get everybody from a radius elsewhere, or Pittsburgh, and that's why you know, every so many years you'll see an artist, everyone's traveling from Pittsburgh to come to see this show. And it's usually at the bigger shows, it's the arena shows, it's the stadium shows, but
Well, and then we also have, now that the smaller venues are being able to pick back up, and I know there's a lot of pressure to, you know, schedule dates and have people in the clubs, but, and I say club in like, as like a music club. I mean, I guess you could say like the club too, but there's so many things on any given night to be able to see, but you're also competing with people's lives. You know, I feel like
abundance.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Abundance. And there's just so many great artists coming out of this area now. I mean, there always have, but there's just the exposure I feel like is getting possible again because I feel like some of the people that were hardest hit from the pandemic were the smaller artists and the up-and-coming artists. So, I mean, at any given night, you can find live music in Buffalo and Toronto, and that's where the magic happens.
Excellent local
music.
Yeah.
So you have Rockin' at the AKG coming back June 14th. Beaches, the Trues.
Lights.
Some Canadian love there. Yeah. Lights was just added.
Men Over Stieg from Colorado, one of my buddies and favorite people.
I love that actual event. I just like the setup of it and the being outside, but in like a smaller.
Yeah, people like
setting.
People like being able to have beer or cocktail or wine out in the Elmwood corridor and be able to look at AKG and you know, Buffalo State, and it's a fun event just as an event goes. But the music's always good too. You
have Green Sky Bluegrass at the Outer Harbor July 3rd, Psychedelic Furs July 5th at the Outer Harbor. I promise that I did not put this together based on Donny. It's just he happens to be involved in a lot of these. I wish to. Wiz Khalifa, Darien Lake, July 6th, right? Outlaw Music Festival, Willie Nelson.
I'll be at that one. I will be at that one. Yeah.
Red Clay Strays, too. They're an up-and-coming.
They're great.
I love that Willie always brings out, like, an up-and-coming artist. and I don't know, he just seems like he's a good guy. I
the
want him
days
to
before
adopt
that also have like Wilco and Lucinda Williams on it.
I know. Bare Naked Ladies, Outer Harbor, July 26th. Rainbow Kitten Surprise, Art Park, July 29th. Lucy Dacus, July 30th. Kesha and Scissor Sisters. Listen, I'm excited about, nothing against Kesha. I love Kesha, but I'm excited about Scissor Sisters, July 31st.
Take Your Mama Out has been on like playlists of mine since the advent of playlists. Katie's looking at me like, there was a time before there was playlists? But like, I think probably one of the first playlists I ever made had that song on it.
Well, after this, later, I'll play you some Scissor Sisters. Okay. So Katie was the one that had to deal with the graphic for that show that we couldn't post because, the Kesha graphic is a little controversial, but she's an artist, and I would expect that. Glass Animals, August 2nd. Outlaw Music Festival, I already said that one. Ani DeFranco, August 31st at Buffalo Outer Harbor. Mm-hmm. And then we get into September. I'm not even talking about September. I put the Lumineers September 3rd, and like, I am not talking about September right now.
Ethel
I was going to go to
in
that,
September,
but...
sold out. Megan Maroney in July. There's so many. I mean, there's so many really great female artists this year. Like the fact that you can, in the same month, you can go see Lucy Dacus, and you can see Megan Maroney and Jessie Murph, and it's like, it's too many shows. You can't do it all.
I was gonna go to the Lumineers, but now Maren Morris is that day, so
I'd rather hear 80s Mercedes than any song that the Lumineers do.
Wait, you're a real one.
Thanks. That's crazy. I love that song. Another favorite on all
Nobody
my playlists.
knows. Okay, that's great.
See, I'm telling you, we bring good people together.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Mike, what does your summer look like? You're everywhere.
Performance-wise, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere, but I try to keep it a little bit low key this summer. Usually summer is like busy, and this year I'm like, let's not. Last time I was here, I talked about writing a book. I'm just finishing that up.
What are you writing about?
Trauma.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
No, I'm writing about imagination and how you can use it to heal trauma.
I remember you talking about this, and I was like, okay, we need that, but I also didn't want you to pull back on your performances because I'm a selfish fan. So, but I'm glad that you are.
We're playing somewhere every month. So we're playing at least 1 or 2 shows a month. And then solo-wise, I'm playing a few shows here or there. Nothing too big, though.
Yeah.
It's really one of those, like, I have to do too many things.
Yeah.
Are you doing any fun outdoor shows?
We're doing Hamburg Pride on the 8th. I think that is. It's Sunday the 8th.
Yeah.
Yep, Sunday the 8th. So we're doing Hamburg Pride. We're debuting our song Pride. So.
So what is the best way to keep track of you?
Right now it's probably social media.
Yeah.
I'm working on the website. It is down, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah,
but I'm working on the website, and so we're getting things together. That's why I'm like, we're just taking a little slow.
Okay.
We're taking our time. But yeah, we are playing.
All right, remind us of your social media. Sorry, I'm going to make you promote yourself right now.
Farrow Band. If you go to farrowband.com, it links you to the Instagram, the TikToks, to all the things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we post where we're going to be. So yeah, that's coming up.
Plans for the weekend. Besides Pride.
I was going to say Pride.
Pride on Sunday. That's going to be a full day. I might have to rest before that.
Hey, what am I doing this weekend? No, I'm doing something fun.
I'll be hanging out with my girlfriend, so Pride.
You had to get yes.
One more girlfriend?
Yeah, me and my girlfriend, we made a bet of how much I would bring her up.
No, this weekend is, I think I'm going to a few Pride events. I might be in one of the things might be performing. Usually I try to, busk a little bit, like actually just appear somewhere with a guitar. So.
Ooh, I like that.
So you might just see me.
Donny, how about you?
Tonight, Friday, I'm going to see the Smiths, Etc. and Disintegration, The Cure. It's a great local show. That's going to be the Smiths and Cure show.
And where is that happening?
Town Ballroom.
Yeah. So music from both artists.
And REM too, a friend of mine who has an REM band out of Syracuse. It'll be hopefully No Rain, Pride, and Cure, Smiths, REM.
The sun and If it does rain, then we get a
rainbow.
So the sun comes out. So you're trying to be hopeful.
Well, that is a silver lining.
That wraps up today's episode of Group Chat for now. If you want to continue the conversation, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BTPMNPR. Also, check us out on the video podcast on the Buffalo Toronto Public Media YouTube channel. And we want to know what's on your mind as well. So drop us an email. What should we be chatting about next? And what's on your pop culture radar? You can email us at groupchat@btpm.org. And if you love public media and you appreciate these conversations, to help protect it, an informational site that you can visit is protectmypublicmedia.org. I'd like to thank my guests Katie Daugherty, Donny Kutzbach, and Mike Farrow. I'm your host, Bentley. Have a great weekend, and thanks for listening.